Hey guys, it's your girl Anisha, aka Geek XX Chic, and we are doing something a little bit different right now. We're actually going to be doing a quick review of the last few episodes of The Flash, namely the episodes 4 through 6. And that is basically because I was very busy over the last couple of weeks. A lot of things came up, and I just did not have the same amount of time for editing of all my shows that I normally would have. And with The Flash, I was having some technical difficulties, and time just got away from me, and it's just like week after week was passing, and after a while I was just like, you know what, instead of me trying to do all these reactions and then put them all up later, I'm just gonna do a review of those 3 episodes in particular, and then we will do episode 7, and then when we come back after the hiatus, then I'll be hopefully back on track and getting them out in a much more timely fashion. But my apologies, I know that they've been really unreliable and haphazard lately, and I apologize for that. So I appreciate those of you who watch my reactions for The Flash for your patience on this. I know it's been frustrating, and I really appreciate you for that. On to the review for these 3 episodes. Now, I didn't write down specific notes for each, but I definitely remembered the highlights of the majority of them. I think the main things that I took away from these last few episodes, I'm going to talk about it more from a character perspective. I think it's just gonna be easier than trying to go episode by episode. And what I really liked was some emphasis on Cisco for the first time in what feels like forever, particularly in the Kiss Kiss, what was it? Kiss Kiss Breach Breach episode. I've been saying, I feel like forever, that Carlos is such a great and talented actor. Like, he's so underutilized on The Flash that it's really embarrassing, actually. And yes, he's a great comedy actor. We've seen him just roll out the liners and the physical comedy and the banter that he has with the other actors. Like, it all works really well, but he's got so much more in him. There's so much more as far as his dramatic skills and just, you know, exploring different aspects of what he's able to delve into that they just never explore on the show. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that they really just kind of pull Cisco out of the closet in order to do techie things and then kind of shove him back. And especially since this infuriating storyline with him losing his powers, he has even less of a reason to be around the group outside of, you know, click-clacking away on their master computer and then disappearing. So I'm glad that this episode was kind of dedicated fully to him, to the point where they actually let Grant and Candace have a day off, which was kind of nice. But I like that because the fact that we weren't jumping around to a ton of other storylines throughout the episode really gave us time to focus on Cisco and what's been going on with Cisco. And the whole Cisco breaking up with Gypsy thing was a bit weird. It was very, I don't know, it was kind of haphazard. I kind of get why they did it because she just was a recurring character. She wasn't coming around a lot, and in order to maintain this her coming in and out of his life thing, it just didn't really feel very organic. So I was fine with them breaking up, but it just kind of felt like we had Cisco mourn her for a really long time, and it felt like last season that's basically the only storyline that he had was, oh boo-hoo, I don't have Cynthia anymore, what am I gonna do? I like that in this episode, not only did they kind of pay a really respectful homage to his relationship with her, but we got to see Cisco do the things that he was supposedly supposed to be able to do last season, which is, if he wasn't a meta, then where are all of his qualities that make him so much more important than his vibing powers? Because they talked about that all season last season, but we didn't actually see a lot of it. Not that I didn't think it was true, but you know what I'm saying? Like, this is the show. I expect you to show me things. And so I was glad that we got to actually see the fact that Breacher, the original Breacher, showed up and was like, I need you to help me with this, Cisco. You're the only person I can trust with this. And we got to see Cisco use his deductive skills. And I mean, it was kind of cool that they brought Camilla in with this as well. And one of the things I actually liked about that, before we get into Cisco's sleuthing skills and figuring this out, I love this really positive relationship dynamic that they showed with Camilla and Cisco and what was Cynthia and what their relationship was, because unfortunately in a lot of teen shows in particular, or shows that are geared towards younger people, there's this unnecessary triangle-y, cat-fighty, you know, unnecessary competition thing that comes up a lot when it comes to 2 people dealing with their mutual, somebody they both have dated or are both dating, whatever, right? I love that this episode, we didn't have Camilla being jealous or petty or worried about the fact that Cisco was spending so much time being upset over Cynthia or really wanting to do all this stuff for Cynthia's father. Like, it just showed a really nice, healthy way that anyone should look at somebody who might be dealing with something to do with their ex. And I'm not talking about a blanket here. I know that there are situations with exes that can get really dicey, but in this situation, I love that they had Camilla be really like responsible and mature about it and recognize that, hey, this really doesn't have anything to do with me. This is about something that happened before I was even in the picture. Let me support Cisco in any way that I can. Let me be supportive of this woman's father, because regardless of what's going on now, this man is grieving and I should be supportive and kind towards that. I love that we saw her father, that Breacher was also like, listen, you've been really great. I think my daughter would have liked you. Please come to her service. Like, that was just a really positive, mature thing. And I just really love that they put it in there. I know it's a minor thing, but we don't see enough of that on television, I don't think. And so I'm really glad that the show took time to put that positive relationship example out there. And I do like Cisco and Camilla a lot, so I just really like this relationship. I like that it's a healthy and functional relationship. Barry shouldn't be the only one allowed to have one of those on this show. But going back to Cisco and his sleuthing skills, I really like that we got to see him actually doing a lot of deductive skills and investigation around how this whole thing happened. And even though he had the BARI system there to help him, I like that throughout the whole thing that, yeah, the system was supposed to figure out how Barry thought, etc. But if you think about it, who created the Barry system? It was Cisco, right? So I love that the whole episode kind of did a whole loop around to the whole reason he created the Barry system was because he felt inadequate in some ways, and the fact that he's always kind of, I think he struggled since season 1, honestly, with this being in this shadow of thinking that he's not good enough. And that came all the way from his brother being the amazing concert pianist and everybody looking up to him and his family versus Cisco. Like, it's a whole thing that honestly should have been explored since season 1. But I'm glad they kind of brought that back and made a really realistic storyline for Cisco, dealing with the fact that Barry is no longer going to be around and that he's going to have to take over, and that it's a real, anyone who's actually taking that responsibility seriously should be terrified. They should be worried. They should be wondering if they really are the right person for the job. If he wasn't, then as Barry said, I would have been more worried about you if you had thought that you were, oh yeah, I got this. So I'm really glad that we got to see Cisco go through that natural progression. As I said, I really love to see him deal with his feelings over losing Cynthia. I mean, even though him and Cynthia weren't together, we all know that their breakup wasn't some angry, I hate you, you hate me sort of thing. It was sadly a situation where they just weren't able to make a long distance relationship work anymore. I also loved his version of Echo playing, another alter ego. We haven't seen that since Earth 2 Reverb. We haven't seen him be his doppelganger. So actually, that's not true. That's not true. Season 4, we also had Cisco, the villain. I forgot. He was the guy who ran the racketeering thing. Anyway, you know what I mean. He hasn't really had a full venture into another doppelganger really in a while, and I do like Echo. I liked him playing kind of this super hyper intelligent, emotionally devoid kind of character who's this hacker who's doing all these crazy things. Like, I honestly, the little that we got to see of Echo's character and what we saw, I actually was like, I want to actually see a story about Echo. I want to follow this guy around. That's actually a really cool idea for a series of a guy who creates new identities for different people on different Earths. That's kind of an amazing storyline. I'm kind of sad. I'm glad that Echo's not dead as a character. I'm just saying I wouldn't be sad if we saw Echo again. But again, it was just nice again to see Carlos get to venture into a different character space again. And I think he really enjoyed being able to have an episode where he really had a full emotional spectrum to go through, from being all kind of cute and giddy to being really sad to being angry to being this completely different character. Like, we really just got to have Carlos shine for an episode. So I'm happy about that. I think Carlos nailed it. I think that the writing for the episode was really good as well. As I said, to deal with not only closing off this whole gypsy kind of part of the storyline when it comes to Cisco, but also in, again, showing off his skills and showing what he's actually dealing with in the overall arc of the season, which is Barry will no longer be here post-crisis. That actually segues nicely into the whole Ramsey thing. That's another character that I have to say is developing quite well, considering that he's kind of the big bad, but not the big bad of the season, if that makes sense. Like, they're definitely making him out to be a real problem this season, which is great, but we already know that the bigger arc that we're worried about as an audience is Barry disappearing after the crisis series happens. and this monitor or anti-monitor, as some of you put that down there. I didn't realize there was an anti-monitor. Again, I apologize. I'm not versed in the DC space. I really liked how Ramsey's character is evolving, I have to say, because if you bring in a villain, I really did think he was going to be a bit more simplistic in the beginning, but you've got this fantastic actor in Sendel, who is from, I remember him from Heroes. That's the first place I saw him. He's just a really good actor who's almost always put into roles where he's this morally gray person. I've noticed a lot of the things I've seen him, and he's always somebody who's like altruistic in thought, but he kind of has this dark side to him. But that's a lot of fun to play. And he has been killing it, by the way, as Ramsey, playing this great mixture between someone who's so passionate about science and in his heart thinking he's quite altruistic, but being so selfish that he cannot deal with the idea that he could succumb to a disease like everybody in the world. Everyone in the world could potentially succumb to a disease, but the arrogance that he has around thinking that he doesn't deserve to die, that that everyone else does, but that humanity shouldn't have to die. And so it's very interesting. I like this. I feel like his villain is being played, or written, I should say, very much in the vein of the Thinker, of being a very smart, evolved villain who really is the hero of his own story. And I think that's so important to show when you're showing especially when you have a season-long villain, which I don't know if he's going to be season-long, but I feel like he's probably going to be around at the very least until after the Crisis thing is over. But I like that they're not just making him some mustache twirling guy. Like, there's real depth to why he's doing what he's doing. And as I said, in his mind, he thinks he's the hero here. He thinks he's making humanity better by making them quote unquote immortal. Like, again, completely blind to the fact that the only way that's gonna happen is if he keeps killing people, right? Like, it's like, dude, are you not figuring out that for you to live, other people have to die? Like, this is not an equal exchange. And really, you're saying only a select amount of people will be able to live. And I don't know if you've looked at yourself lately, but you don't look so good. Your feet, your hands are decaying. Your neck's got some kind of nasty crusty growing on it. Like, this is not a future anybody wants to be a part of. But anyways, as I said, really well written though, in that we can see what's driving Ramsey, this combination of what he thinks to be his altruistic goal, along with all this greed and general anger and pain and grief that he has over his mom and what she had to go through. It's just this really messy pile that's just pushing him in the wrong direction and just not allowing him to think straight and realize what he's doing is so horrible. So anyway, I think I just wanted to comment on that. I think that they're playing it really, really well. And watching him descend further and further into his madness and into his own arrogance is going to be very interesting. I don't know if I really like the way they're playing Caitlin's role in all of this. Again, I'm still just not 100% on board with the whole Killer Frost Kate storyline. I don't get it. And not in the sense that I don't see what they're trying to do. I just don't get how this makes any sense. I don't know. I really just feel like the whole thing should have been wrapped up already. I don't really have enough of an interest to watch Killer Frost go through a whole new life from a childlike perspective. I don't see why we have to have Caitlin shelved for half the season so that we can go through this Killer Frost thing. Like, it doesn't resonate with me. I just feel like there's better ways you could be evolving Caitlin's character. And again, not having another man obsess about her. Because it seems like everything with Caitlin has to, in the end, revolves around a dude that either wants her, is in love with her, is obsessed with her. Like, can we just have Caitlin have something that doesn't have anything to do with the dude? It's like, just have Caitlin do something for Caitlin. That would be fantastic. Oh my gosh. Yeah, we should talk really quickly about the whole scene between Joe and Barry, where Joe basically said he's not really ready to accept the idea that Barry having to die. I really like that this season has been taking real time to give real reactions to how these characters would feel about the idea of Barry dying. Even though they realize on a conscious level that it has to happen based on what he said, they're not just gonna be like, oh, okay, like this is something that'd be super horrible. I'm really glad the show's not glossing over how dark and how sad and how heartbreaking that is, particularly for the people who have been in Barry's life the longest, aka Joe and Iris. I just think it's being really well played. It is heart-wrenching to watch. I don't think we've seen Joe really full on break down since like the earlier seasons, and I hate those scenes. They get to me. I love Jesse L. Martin. He does such a good job with those scenes, and I've always said that one of the foundations of this show has been the chemistry between Jesse and Grant as actors. It's just such a palpable, believable scene in there that he really is grieving the idea of losing his son. And well, really, it's almost like two suns because Wally's off in the stratosphere somewhere, never to return. So yeah, it was really sad to see, but that scene was amazingly played. Kudos to both of them for playing that off. But as I said, it's really good call on the show for putting these types of relevant and poignant scenes in. And outside of that, we really just had the whole Ralph thing. I feel like Ralph's been kind of just orbiting a lot of the series this first half of the season. Like they're not quite sure what to do with his character right now. And I kind of get that because I feel like he was a weird insertion in the show after the whole Thinker episode or Thinker season. Like I think they weren't sure what to do with him last season, which is a pity. But I did like seeing him use more of those PI sleuthy skills that we were so sold on him having in the season 4 that we didn't really get to see before. And that whole thing with them, kind of him and Barry being the spy thing, I mean, it was a fun departure from what we normally see. I don't know if we needed a whole episode dedicated to it, but I do think it was kind of neat once again to see just Ralph kind of being a different element and actually see Ralph and Barry do more bonding, because they're supposed to have this really close bond that I feel like was really dropped in season 5, and I'm glad that they're picking it up and realizing that we need to show why all these people have such strong ties to Barry outside of the fact that he saved their lives. And so yeah, that's pretty much all I really want to say about that, because as I said, there wasn't much else to do, but I'm hoping it's going to tie into something that we're going to see later in the season. So yeah, I think that's pretty much the majority of what happened over the last couple of episodes, outside of course the whole stuff with Harrison, or what's his name, Nash Wells, and him trying to figure out, like, apparently he's already found the monitor. He feels like the monitor is a fraud, but this is important, right? Because now that some of you in the comments mentioned that there's an anti-monitor, then obviously there is potentially a loophole for Barry to get out of this whole infinite crisis scenario that's been spun. That's important, obviously, because nobody wants Barry to disappear forever. However, yeah, I'm not sure if I don't know. I'm still not on the fence about how I feel about the whole Nash situation, but it's just these incarnations of Wells over and over again. I don't know. I feel like 6 seasons in, we're kind of pushing it. We needed something, I guess, some way of having something outside of the main storyline of how to get Barry out of this, outside of Team Flash doing it. That part I do understand, considering it wouldn't make sense for someone in Team Flash to keep pursuing it. And especially since the monitor and his whole world is so outside of what Team Flash knows right now, I understand that it kind of needed an external force to get in there and kind of be the person to chip away at whether or not there is a way to fix this problem that we're seeing. So it kind of ties into this Ultraviolet character, Allegra. I'm still not sure how to feel about her or why she's been pulled into this whole situation. But, you know, usually if writing is done, sorry, my eye just flew into my eye. Usually when it comes to bringing in good writing, you don't just bring in random characters for the sake of it. We brought in Allegra. We've seen her cousin pop up a couple of times as well. So I feel like they're not here for just for the sake of story. I feel like they're going to somehow tie into this overall plot. How, I'm not sure yet. But yeah, I can't think that we're bringing her into the loop and telling her that Barry's the Flash. Can we really stop doing that as well? Show, like, why does Barry even have a secret identity anymore? He should just take the mask off and run around, because everybody knows he's the Flash. Like, they don't even try to keep it a secret anymore. But I digress. I'm trying to figure out the fact that she's now fully in the loop now. There's got to be a reason for it. I'm hoping they didn't just tell her that for the sake of telling her. So I have no idea how or why, but maybe some of you who are avid fans of the comics can let me know about Ultraviolet and Allegra. I don't know what her name is supposed to be in the comics. Like, if you know what their story is or how it could potentially roll into this whole thing, that would be fantastic. I'm also wondering if potentially her character might be someone who feeds into, because I know that new series for the CW is coming next year, I think, the new Rogues series. I don't know if it started or not, but we saw some backdoor piloting of it last season. So I'm wondering maybe she might somehow feed into that new storyline, but I'm still not sure why she's here and what she's doing, I guess, is my point. That's pretty much it, I think, for the overall reviews of the episodes. As I said, I think they were all pretty good. My favorite one being the one that centered on Cisco for obvious reasons. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Once again, I apologize for how late and how backwards this one particularly is with this series, but I'm going to try to be better about it in the new season, or the new year, I should say. And so thanks so much for bearing with me and watching this. So I hope you liked this video, guys. If you did, please click like, and if you want to see more from this geeky face, please click subscribe. Until next time, see ya.